So
you came in here with a proposal, Kaufman-esque, to basically show the backstory, including all of our work product. And I stopped you.
Yes.
Because this is part of the work product.
right, exactly. So the thinking
Here we
is
start again.
so the thinking is that a lot of Kaufman's movies are kind of write themselves, particularly Adaptation being the most obvious example, in which there's a character named Charlie Kaufman who you realize is writing the movie that you yourself are watching, and there's this sort of infinite loop that happens. And a lot of, my first impulse was in writing that pitch was to sort of be like, here I am writing the pitch, blah, 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 and immediately realized this was a mistake to do for an article because everybody does this. It's like, as Scott put it, I've talked about Scott with this a little bit. It's the first thing that comes to people's minds. It's the obvious thing to do. But that dimension and theme strikes me as important, and maybe one way of doing it without hitting people over the head with it quite so much would be just to do it honestly instead of do it gimmickily.
So although this is obviously intellectually appealing, it is obviously consistent with the theme. I have to ask, does anyone want to watch this?
Maybe not, but that's another good thing about it being online as opposed to in the magazine, frankly, is that you can watch it if you're interested, and if you're not, you don't. But it's not the text of the story exactly, but it's.
Well, I guess
there won't be a watch it. There'll be a series of 4-minute video here and
A lot of blogging, a lot
Yeah.
of posting.
and
Jason's rough draft.
right.
my
So
edit.
Email exchange here, another video here.
The markup,
But what
PDFs.
is the point? I mean, we stand back. What is the point? Is the point that that we're so full of ourselves that we want the world to see how brilliant we are at every stage of the process?
Opposite.
No.
No.
Yes.
Totally silent on that. Absolutely.
I'll tell you what I think the point is, and but different people could get different points out of it, I suppose. For me, my thinking is there is a lot of distrust of our industry. We go into we interview people and we go into this black box and we turn stuff into content. People think that there's artifice going on there, and that we take. I mean, not all of us, but basically. So that's one reason. I think that at Wired we talk about radical transparency as a way of increasing trust between your consumers and the product, and showing the making of it, and thereby deepening that relationship. And I think that would happen.
All right.
I
so
like
there's
that
the
idea
sort of
better
the
than the
institutional trust factor. Do you got anything else?
Well, the other argument is that it happens to dovetail quite nicely with this story, which is, we would be watching this content create itself. There are thematic resonances which make it particularly work for this story. I think you could make the first argument for any story, but it also just happens to be particularly resonant.
It's a little bit of a media gimmick in that respect, kind of sort of, the going through the story, the journalistic narrative in search of the actual narrative. This is the story about the story. It's
It is, but in a
done in a multimedia fashion.
but in a non-artificial way, in a way that it happens with every story.
The big difference and the big risk is that we're doing it on a daily basis. We're showing.
You need to give the camera to somebody else.
Well, so then the convenient sort of dovetail that Jason and I discovered on Thursday night when we were talking about this was the kind of work that I've been doing externally on my blog on SPD, and the kind of pulling back the curtain of showing how design happens and showing how stories actually make it from a pitch letter into this meeting, into an edit that you guys work on that ends up getting designed and photographed and showing all the steps that end up turning into magazine pages.
Like that video you sent around of that one story being designed and redesigned 100 times.
Yeah, and that was like one component of it, but really pulling back the curtain and showing all the nuts and bolts and all the ugly details of it. But on a daily basis on a blog, we could tell the story of how Wired works a little bit. We could reveal Jason's processes and show how all the kind of intermingling pieces.
So blogging in real time starting now, or or put everything out after?
So for my purposes, I would like to ask permission to start showing stuff now. That I would have a dedicated blog on SPD where I would be showing the Wired process.
I think there's a note that we have to identify here that when you're doing that for the design community, obviously the design community is interested in that sort of thing by nature, but when we're talking about for the readers, we have to come to some sort of point of all of this.
Yeah.
Because they're not magazine people. The magazine people will inherently be interested in the process.
I don't know. I mean, I think going back to yes and no. I mean, I think that you're right. We can't throw, and the big question is, when do we put stuff up? Do we put it up immediately? How much do we put stuff up? Do we put up every email? To what point are people going to be like, I don't give a shit, you know? But I think, you know, if you hit the right balance, it's like, I mean, I wouldn't ever imply that any of us are Charlie Kaufman, but, you know, that people are interested to see. I think there's an interest to see how these things are put
And it's
together.
optional. When you
it's
post
optional.
the story, being Charlie Kaufman is the story that's posted,
Yeah.
and then below that is inside Wired's making of being Charlie Kaufman.
Right.
And that's not the
Charlie
same thing as really sort of touching on what Charlie Kaufman is. That's exactly right. That's just inside. That's just behind the scenes.
That's what we're doing.
Which
Well,
isn't
that's the very fact
quite
that we're
as-
arguing this as part of this.
But that's all we're
Yes.
offering. I don't think we're offering anything more than the emails, the meetings, the blogging, and the hallway conversations that and the marked up copy that led to the story. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
It
a
adds another
part of that.
dimension to it, and it shows that I think the reason it's consistent with the Kaufman stuff is, you know, the Kaufman stuff makes you very aware of the constructed nature of what you're watching.
But somehow he ties it all together and makes another narrative.
Well, he makes it art, right? I mean, we're not going to make
We're
it
just going
art.
behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's all. That doesn't feel like enough?
That feels like
Let's
to
do
me.
it.
You don't think you can edit this into a narrative?
Possibly. No, I'm hoping that that's what we can do.
Well, I think
Although
that's
I think
like-
it's not. I mean, I think that when you start editing it into a narrative, that's when it becomes the magazine piece. That it's like, here I am.
But you've got to edit this.
That's
How do you edit into anything but a narrative?
I mean, it's a natural
It's
narrative.
a chronology. Not
Right.
It doesn't have to build into some great drama or moment. It's just
No,
a chronology.
So I think the first thing to do would be to get like our initial emails about this conversation up there, and maybe the pitch up there too.
Yes.
Fine. Yeah.
And we'll all just share everything.
Everything I've written, such as this, is fine.
Great, cool,
Okay.
that's great.
Email address redacted.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.